Woke Supremacy
Released
News.
overnight. Folders labeled top secret, secret, sensitive. Officials say these were taken from Mar-a-Lago even after Donald Trump's team claimed they had handed over everything. I'm John Berman with Brianna Keeler, and while you were hopefully sleeping, the most comprehensive filing yet from the Department of Justice explaining what they found at Mar-a-Lago, why they executed a search warrant. The government says it developed evidence that government records were likely concealed and removed from the storage room at Mar-a-Lago, and that efforts were likely taken to obstruct the government's investigation. And when they searched, the government seized twice as many documents marked classified as the Trump team had given them when they claimed they handed over everything. The filing included this photo, documents that had yellow tabs, red tabs, you can see right there, marked secret, top secret, sensitive. These were taken from containers, and they were spread out on the floor by the FBI. This is how the FBI chose to display them, and you can see clearly the classified markings all over them, right there, secret SEI, top secret SEI.
Now, this 36-page filing released overnight lays out how Trump failed to return dozens of classified documents, even after his lawyer claimed that he had. The FBI seized 33 boxes containing more than 100 classified documents during its search earlier this month. 3 of those classified documents were not found in boxes, but in Trump's desk. For all of those reasons, the Justice Department vehemently opposes Trump's request to appoint a special master to oversee the seized documents. The Trump legal team has until tonight to respond to this latest DOJ filing. At a hearing on Thursday, a judge will hear arguments before making her final decision on a need for that special master.
All right, with me now, CNN senior legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Elie Honig and CNN reporter Kara Scannell. We were all up all night. These documents needed to be submitted just before midnight, and they were. Kara, give us the lowdown.
Right. I mean, well, John, what we're really seeing in this document is DOJ presenting a counter narrative to the narrative that Trump has put out there. They said that what he has said was inaccurate and misleading. And then they go meticulously through some of these details he went through, that since they executed that search warrant, they've recovered twice as many documents as they had received when Trump had and his legal team had responded to a subpoena. They also said that it's likely that a number of these documents were concealed and removed from the storage room that the FBI initially was allowed to enter. They say the FBI agents who were there were not allowed to open any boxes in the storage room. And then they say that they had learned some evidence and intel that prompted the search warrant. They go back in and they find 3 documents in the desk of the former president, Donald Trump. So they're saying that there's a lot of potential evidence here, that there were efforts undertaken to try to obstruct this investigation, this effort to obtain these documents that they've been trying to get for more than a year because they are presidential records. Now, also to the legal arguments here of, should a special master be appointed? Prosecutors are saying these aren't Trump's records. These records belong to the U.S. government, to the U.S. people, and that there's not grounds to do that here. I mean, it's a very detailed filing, and it gives us some new insights into the whole timeline and the process here that we normally wouldn't see in an argument over a special master.
This is really the first time that the Department of Justice has written extensively since the warrant was executed. Everything that's been released until this point has been the warrant itself, the redacted affidavit. This is DOJ telling us now what they found. And if we can put the picture up again, just so people see how the FBI laid out the documents on the floor so people could see in this photo. This was an appendix to this filing right here. Elie, first, just give us your top line about this release.
It's DOJ strikes back. Clearly, DOJ had something on their minds. Something was bugging them, and they used this filing to unload all of that. We see now, by the way, why they asked for a double long filing. The first thing that I think you take out of this filing is that forget about these questions about whether DOJ acted too rashly, too suddenly when they executed the search warrant. They had no choice. I mean, Kara just laid out the extent of the timeline and how long they were misled and lied to by Trump's attorneys, how many chances they gave Trump's attorneys to just hand over the documents to archives by a subpoena. They had to do this search warrant. They really had no choice. The other thing that comes through to me from this filing is we can start to see the outlines of what charges may look like. I think it is vastly premature to declare that anybody is dead to rights based on this document, but you can start to get a sense of what some of the charges may be. Kara laid out where an obstruction charge may lay. One of the important details is that 3 documents were found not in the storage room that DOJ said, hey, keep everything here, but in a desk in Donald Trump's office. I think that's really telling and gives us a sense of where they might go. The other thing is knowledge and intent. We keep talking about prosecutors would have to show Donald Trump knew what was in these documents, had criminal intent. Well, the documents that we saw, that photo, they were not splayed out on the floor, but they couldn't be any more clearly marked. They're yellow and red, big, all caps, secret, top secret.
Yeah, those are big, bold colors
Yes.
that can't be missed. As an appendix here, they included a letter that were signed by a lawyer for Donald Trump, verifying that previous to this, after the subpoena, that everything had been handed over to the best of their knowledge. And I want to read not from that, but a couple excerpts here. Again, the idea that twice as much was taken from what the Trump people sworn they had handed over. The FBI, in a matter of hours, recovered twice as many documents with classifications marking as the, quote, diligent search that the former president's counsel and other representatives had weeks to perform, calls into serious question the representations made in the June 3rd certification and cast doubt on the extent of cooperation in the matter. So twice as many documents as the Trump people swore to. And then there's this, because the Trump people have said they cooperated from the beginning. We gave them everything they wanted. They could have just asked nicely. Critically, however, the DOJ writes, the former president's counsel explicitly prohibited government personnel from opening or looking inside any of the boxes that remained in the storage room, giving no opportunity for the government to confirm that no documents with classification markings remain. Ellie.
Yeah. There's an element of intentionality here because remember, we've seen now for the first time the letter, the certification that Trump's lawyers sent to DOJ saying, hey, we did our diligence. We looked everywhere. We've given you everything. DOJ goes in on the search warrant and immediately finds not a couple scattered documents, not one here, not one there, but twice that amount immediately. So that tells you this cannot have been some oversight, some sloppy.
Records were likely concealed and removed from the storage room, and that efforts were likely taken to obstruct the government's investigation. This included evidence indicating that boxes formerly in the storage room were not returned prior to counsel's review. That's strong language on the possibility of obstruction.
It raises a lot of questions of who was moving these documents and why they were moved and where they were moved. And the big issue here is if, as DOJ is saying, this was moved before the lawyers had a chance to look at it, that also seems to go to intent because it suggests that someone was really trying to keep this away from the attorneys and trying to hide these records.
How is the picture that has been painted different this morning than it was yesterday morning, Kara? What do we know now that we didn't know before that DOJ released this giant filing?
I mean, they're really telling us there was this narrative out there that Trump was cooperating, that they had, certified this, that they had turned over everything. They welcomed the FBI in with open arms, that Trump came by and visited and said, do whatever you need to do. And now DOJ is saying, we've had obstacles all along the way in this search. We haven't gotten straight answers. And they're laying this out because there is this public narrative that Trump has put out there in his legal team. And they're saying, in the proper DOJ forum, in a court filing, laying out, here's actually what was going on. And here are the obstacles that we encountered along the way. It's not quite as clear cut as it was being made to sound.
And then on the question of how secret or sensitive were these documents, there's this. Certain of the documents had colored cover sheets indicating their classification status. We've seen that in the picture. The classification levels range from confidential to top secret, and certain documents included additional sensitive compartments that signify very limited distribution. And then there's this. In some instances, even the FBI, counterintelligence personnel, and DOJ attorneys conducting the review required additional clearances before they were permitted to review certain documents. That's a legal flourish there.
Such a telling detail, though. I mean, FBI agents, in particular counterintel agents, tend to have very high security clearances. You'll not be surprised to know. Yet they had to go get more clearance before they could look at these documents. And I think you couple that statement with the photo. And this photo to me is so important. I mean, it's the old cliche, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think that really holds true here because to see these documents, yes, they were not spread across the floor. This was something the FBI did, but they were in these documents, in these boxes, couldn't be more clearly marked. I think that is a visual that's going to really stick with people and drive home the importance of these documents and just sort of how carelessly, and maybe worse, they were being kept.
And again, just remember, all of what we just discussed is above and beyond what the actual legal argument here, which is DOJ says there should not be a special master because one is not needed. They've already looked at all the documents. It doesn't apply to executive privilege. We'll see what the judge thinks of those arguments. Ellie Honig, Kara Scannell, great to have you both this morning.